welcome to Bloomberg Quint, and this is Bloomberg Quint's Market Wrap. I'm Navneet Saluja D'Souza. Well, a new week. We did have a gap down opening today, but there was a huge recovery seen from thereabouts. In fact, we closed almost at day's high. Positive closing coming for Nifty, Bank Nifty, even for your broader market indices for the likes of Nifty Midcap as well as the Nifty Small Cap Index. Well, clearly the IT pack was in focus on back of Infosys numbers, but let's tell you some of the gainers today among the Nifty constituents. The pharma pack bounced back. Your top gainer on Nifty was Cipla, which was up over 5%. Stocks like Grasim too did pretty well, and UPL was up nearly 2.2%. Couple of the auto stocks, you had Hero Moto, Bajaj Auto, both of them ended with gains of nearly 2%. And from the private banking space, you had something like Kotak Mahindra Bank, and also your heavyweights like HDFC that ended the day with gains of 1.6%. On the losing side, surprisingly, Tata Motors was pretty weak. That fell almost 5%, and Infosys, which did have a gap down opening, finally a negative closing, but only about 3%. Alongside, you also had stocks like Wipro, State Bank of India, which could not perform that well in today's session. Let's also look at the broader market universe. You have the Nifty Midcap Index. The India Bulls group stocks performed well. So India Bulls Ventures was locked in upper circuit with gains of 20%. Real estate was your top gainer among the Nifty Realty Index. Also, your NBFCs, Dewan Housing did well. Grow Finance on back of numbers performed well. On the losing side, Vakrangi continues to be locked in lower circuit. You had something like Crompton Greaves Consumer. IRB Infra, which rallied last week, saw some bit of profit booking, and also stocks like Reliance Power as well as Alchem Laboratories saw some bit of selling pressure coming about. But let's bring in our market editor Neeraj and talk to him about how the markets did. And Neeraj, it was surprising actually in the second half how we recovered and finally ended at day's high.
Yeah, you probably brand this day as a day of recovery, and quite unlike what you would have thought on Saturday morning when you first heard of the airstrikes, quite frankly. So it's a big positive surprise. But I think you've summed up almost all the action that happened. Navneet, just 2 or 3 points. One, the performance of the private banking space and banks by and large, I think that helped the markets in a meaningful way in the early half of trade. Remember, banks didn't crack. Had banks cracked along with IT, it would have had been a spot of bother, but banks didn't crack. So that was one key factor. Two, the recovery in the market breadth in a meaningful way. Somewhere midway through trade, we were about 2:1 in favor of the declines. We ended the day almost even Stevens on the advanced decline ratio. So that was good. And three, the characteristic of a bunch of stocks zooming up in the last 1.5 hours of trade, it just showed that a lot of people took home some positive trade positions as well. Clutch of stocks hitting 52-week highs too. So all of that augurs fairly well. I don't know, Navneet, how the FNO build-up was in some of the key indices, but I would presume that banks to an extent and select auto names, rate sensitives by and large, had fairly decent FNO action as well.
That's right, Neeraj. In fact, also the base for the market is now moving higher, considering we conquered the 10,500 mark in today's session. Now, the maximum open interest on the call side has moved from 10,500 to about 10,700. So probably that's going to be the next level that the market will be watching out for. But who better than Hemant Kapadia of KR Choksey can help us with technicals here. Hemant, we've conquered the 10,500 mark, and I believe in the last 7 to 8 trading session, Nifty's recovered nearly 400 points. Where do you see the next rally to come about? Where do you see the cap actually on the upside?
Nani, there was one level was 10,490. We've distinctly closed above that. The next level is 10,550. And the next level is 10,665. Finally, after the dust has settled, about 10,550, there's an uncovered gap now between 10,702 and 10,736. This has been uncovered for the last couple of months. I think that's going to be the final target, but maybe it comes end of April or maybe early May. But I think about 10,550, assuming that it gets broken out and we hold, this is the next level with hiccups finally.
So if we break 10,550, you're suggesting where can we go up to?
Firstly, 10,625, 10,665, and finally 10,702 to 10,736.
Okay, so watch out for those key levels that Hemant just highlighted for you. But let's also tell you some individual stocks that were in focus in today's session. One of them was Reliance Communication. It tumbled nearly 5%. And I guess it was also the top loser in terms of FNO securities. Somit is here to tell us why exactly that fall came about.
So Supreme Court has again put a ban on sale of the assets of Reliance Communication. Now this is after NCLT had allowed this sale, and they had said that you can go ahead with the sale and put the money in an escrow account. But now Supreme Court is saying that you cannot sell these assets and you'll have to wait for the final decision related to the minority shareholders, that is HSBC's DZ investment comes in. Only after that you can go ahead and sell these assets. Without that, till now you cannot sell these assets. That's the reason we saw some weakness in the stock after it had gained for the last 2-3 trading sessions. And today we saw weakness as Supreme Court has put a ban on sale of assets of Reliance Communications.
Okay, so that's the reason why you saw that fall coming in for Reliance Communication. But the other stock which dominated every headline on every show was Infosys today. The numbers came out post-market hours on Friday. Darshan, most of the brokerages, I think the view was consensus. They were disappointed with the EBIT margin guidance that they've given for FY19. And the reason for that was they're looking to invest more on digital front, which could be dilutive for their EBIT margins.
Yeah, so that's right. You know, I think the numbers were in line. There was no surprise. In fact, the EBIT margins were much better than what the street was anticipating. But I think the guidance is something that disappointed, not on the revenue front, but on the margin front, where 100 basis point downtick is something that they have emphasized. So that's the problem. The other part is that North America is not growing. Europe actually saw a decline after 3 quarters of gain that came in. So that was the problem. And basically, if you're looking at Infosys itself, there is concern because, the earlier management had indicated that, Panaya and Skava would be the growth drivers, and now they are looking to sell it off. So there is some bit of issue. I think the most important factor now, Infosys will be range bound till probably 23rd. That's what a lot of analysts did indicate. And 23rd is where they have their investor meet. Probably there is something where you can expect more clarity on Infosys. But nevertheless, Navneet, rather disappointing from Infosys in terms of the guidance.
That's right, Darshan. But let's see if this downside is capped, like a lot of the analysts have been saying, because of the capital allocation plan they've announced. Probably the downside now for the stock could be capped. Well, on back of earnings, you also had Growth Finance, which posted decent set of numbers. The asset quality improved sequentially. In fact, the company also announced bonus of 1:1. So the stock did have a flat opening, but it built on to its gain throughout the session. And even if you look at the futures of Growth Finance, that added a lot of long positions in today's session. In fact, earlier during the day, we spoke to the management, and here is what they had to say.
I think the loan asset growth, would depend also on what is the competition's activities and, what is going to be the prepayment situation. This year, we have had an all-time high prepayment ratio, which went up from 11% to 14%. So I think that challenge will decide as to how much the loan asset growth would be. I think for the last 2 years, we have been able to sustain the loan asset growth at 18 to 19%. So we'll continue to work on a target of 20 to 25% loan asset growth. But I think that's going to be challenging, in the current environment.
Well, that was Sudhin Choksi of Growth Finance speaking on the Q4 numbers, but he clearly highlighted as well the guidance, the loan growth guidance for FY19. He did maintain it is going to be in that range of nearly 18 to 19%. Well, those were the stocks which were in focus in today's session. But switching our focus back to markets, I mean, if one were to take a trade now on Nifty or Bank Nifty, would you go ahead and take it immediately, or would you wait for some time?
The only thing I can wait for now is maybe an intraday blip, Navneet, but I think the hourly indicators which were showing some negative divergence on Friday have turned positive, have given crossover buy. So frankly speaking, I wouldn't wait. But if I wanted to make it ultra safe, I'll start by selling some puts, and once the market goes in my favor, then probably add square of the puts and go long in futures. But honestly speaking, I think things are okay. Today's recovery has been quite surprisingly strong. So I think it augurs well, but maybe sell a few puts just to test the water, so to speak, before going long in futures.
And I mean, we'll watch out for the 10,550 mark that you highlighted for us in tomorrow's trading session. Thanks a lot for joining us today. Well, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Bloomberg Quint Market Wrap, but stay tuned.